So we recently took a close-up look at this percussion pistol and went through the things that immediately stood out about it as being problematic and needing fixing or care. And well, we're here to do exactly that. So today's video is going to be a teardown of the pistol. We're not going to be working on the cleaning part yet or on the restoration part. I just want to start loosening these screws, taking apart what can be taken apart, and kind of getting a look at what the situation is, what we have to work with. One disclaimer, I've never done this with a pistol. I have done it with a rifle once, a percussion rifle, and it went pretty smoothly, no damage was done, so I hope this is not going to be more complicated than that. We'll kind of cross those bridges as we get to them. One thing that I've noticed is these screw slots are a little irregular and weird, so each one of them is different. These don't look like machine-made screws. So I have the impression that some of these may be a little tricky to work on with my screwdrivers. And that's mostly because if you look at this one, for example, the slots are very slanted. So let me see if I hope that focuses. But it almost seems like the screwdriver, the typical modern screwdriver, which has rather angled sides, may slip here. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when we get there. So anyway, let me switch up the setup and we'll start taking it apart. So this is going to be a little bit tricky. I'm working right on the edge of my table here. So I'm going to try and clamp this one right here. This might be enough to... No, it's a little thin, maybe a little narrow. So we'll pull out the biggest boy I have, which is this guy. And hopefully he will do the trick. So, of course, as far as I've understood, when restoring these antiques, not damaging the screw slots is really very important. As with swords, you don't want to give the impression that something has been tampered with. I can't promise I'll be able to do that on this gun. As I mentioned, the screws are all a little bit wonky and weird. I'll do my best, but we'll see what happens. So we'll kick this off, and here we go. I hope this is a good angle for you guys to look at, because it's a really bad angle for me to work on. Okay, yeah, it's turning. Oh, there we go. There's a little bit of slippage, so I really need to hold that in place. But it is turning without huge effort, so... Also, one other thing, you don't need to clamp the gun down too much, too hard. Like, there's no need to compress it or anything. It just needs to be still and fixed in place as far as possible. Okay, we're good with this screw. I don't think we caused any serious damage, but we'll check that out in just a moment. So, let's take a look here. The screw, I mean, I suppose you can kind of see that it's been pushed on here. I hope that's not, but yeah, we do what we can. The screw is fairly rusty. It's a really short screw, you see. Okay, this comes off fairly easily, I think. Yes. Okay, we can see some active rust. It's really interesting to see, though, how there are still also perfectly shiny areas on it. Metal is such a cool thing. Look how patinated and corroded the outside is. This is like hundreds of years of exposure to the elements, and then on the inside you have the two extremes. Like, you have the active rust, and then you have this shiny bit of metal underneath. You can almost imagine it being new. Oddly enough, in Italian, this is called cane, which means dog. So this is the dog of this pistol. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to turn the gun around, and we're going to remove the other screws, try and remove the other screws that are holding the mechanism in place, and then we'll see where we go from there. We might be able to get away with just one clamp here, so one central clamp. You can see the screwdriver here, the slot is, That's the kind of mistake you don't want to be making, having slippage and this kind of stuff. But we'll go for it. Okay, this one turns really easily. So hopefully all of these screws are going to be like this. Okay, this is a dream. Okay, there we go. Remove this screw. And this one is a deep one. Okay, let's take a close-up look at it. So in this case, no real damage to the head, I would say. And oh wow, this is really interesting. I'm trying to get it in focus, but you can see that there's only the thread only runs for a couple of turns here. It goes up to here. The threaded part is really, really small. And what's really cool, you can see that it's hand forged, or like, look, it's like a, yeah, it's, I suppose, hand forged, yes. It's super regular. It's almost like the tang on a sword. It's just a drawn out piece of metal that's then been smoothed roughly. It's not even completely straight, actually. I think that's so cool. Very rusty, so this is going to also benefit from a cleanup. And yeah, let's put this in the box too. I hope I'm sorry for the angles here, but this is the only way at the moment I can. Oh, this one is not. Okay, it's turning, but oh man, this one is not easy. Okay, what to do? I could perhaps try and get some ballistol underneath, and maybe that would help. Let me try just once more, because this one I'm really kind of concerned with. Just try and be as straight as possible. Okay, no, it's turning, it's turning, it's turning. Let's hope it doesn't slip off. But yeah, I've looked at a few posts and forums and guides of people who restore these guns, and for example, one thing is variety of screwdrivers would be really important, because you want something that slots perfectly into the screw slot, and also you want, sometimes someone was saying they hand file them as well to adapt to a specific screw so that it doesn't cause any damage. I don't have that kind of gear with me, unfortunately, so we have to make do with what we have. But I think we got through it pretty cleanly. And it's almost like uncovering a treasure here, right? Like, imagine this screw could potentially not have been removed for, I don't know, 200 years. And this is very similar to the one we already saw, with the one difference that the thread runs a little bit further. So there are like maybe 5 rounds of the thread here. But yeah, you'll see similar screw, the exact same kind of hand. Oh no, this is round though. So look, this is really interesting too. This screw here is almost faceted. You can see different, yeah, facets to it here especially. And this one instead is like, well, I won't say perfectly round, but very round. Both of them though are covered in rust. Okie dokie. Now to remove the clamp and figure out how everything is there any other screw? I mean, there's one up here for sure, and that's the one that keeps the barrel in place. So we'll remove that as well, and start figuring out if we can, how easily we can remove the mechanism and stuff. Is removing this screw on the top. This is basically holding the barrel in place. And I hope that by removing this, things will kind of unlock a little, because at the moment, these plates and everything are really fixed in place. I don't see an easy way of removing these at all. I'm also, yeah, and this should also be holding together the trigger guard here. I would assume that this goes somewhere down and connects here, because there's no screw holding this in place anywhere. So this must be held by something. So the only concern, the only problem here is how to, okay, I might be able to clamp it like this. So the screwdriver has a bit of give at the start, so I hope it doesn't slip. Oh, this is a tough one. Okay, sometimes they say it helps to first screw, oh yeah, it does. So if a screw is really doesn't move, tighten it just a little so that it kind of breaks any rust, bond, or anything it has, and then it comes loose enough that you can unscrew it. So just that few millimeters movement helps, let's say, unscrew it, but we'll see. It did move. I don't know if enough to... Oh, this is not going to be an easy one, that's for sure. I'm a little concerned here. I'll try with one of these stubby ones. Maybe the issue is not so much the tip, but it's the control on the screw head. So let's see if this... Oh, it seems to be working. I can't really see, but at least it didn't slip. Yes, this is working. Okay, nice. Yes, it's done. Okay, so the stubby screwdriver is your friend in this case. This came out really easily once we used the right driver. And again, we have a similar kind of screw to the ones we just saw previously. This one has a smaller head, of course, but it's the same kind of partially threaded. This one looks like a perfect cylinder though. Not perfect, but good enough. And still very, very rusty. So off to the box it goes. Now, I'll remove the clamp and we'll try and figure out whether there's some, or whether we have some moving. Oh, yeah, haha, there we go. Okay, so let me collect myself and put things in focus. And yeah, that basically enabled everything to kind of come apart. So here we have the plate. Let's take a close-up look at it. Actually, what's really cool here is look how fine the decoration was at some point. This must have been a very beautiful pistol. And look, I'm sorry if I keep repeating myself, but it's so cool to see how shiny. This is practically looks new. It's amazing. So I don't know how this mechanism works. We have two springs here. There's this one. This is the, let's see, this goes here, yes. So this would be the trigger spring. So this would be where the trigger kind of actions, and pushing this spring up, I suppose, would activate things. This, I don't know, we'll figure this out. But for now, we can put it aside. Sometimes, at least in the rifle I told you about, on the inside we had maker's marks and like a bunch of interesting information, but I do not see anything here. But then again, this is covered in rust, so who knows? We'll figure that out when the time comes. As you can see, this part now is very loose. The tip of the barrel moves, but it doesn't move as much here at the back, and I'm assuming there's either something I'm not... There might be a screw back here. How to remove this plate now? This is so cool. This is just unbelievably cool. I'm sorry, let me just enjoy this for a moment. And then we'll move into... Okay, anyway. Before we actually move into that, let me take this screw off, just so we take care of all of the screws. I think our little stubby friend here will... Yes. I think we found our companion for this ride. Okay, there we go. You see, this is the kind of... Now the screwdriver slipped. I was being not too careful. And this is just a stupid thing you need not to do. Damn it, again. It's like Christmas. I'm maybe a little too excited to be doing this. But yeah, you don't want to do this obviously on a priceless antique. Okay, there we go. Oh, this is wow. Okay, well, we keep learning stuff along the way. So check out this. You look at the scalpel marks. Look at how it's been shaped by the craftsman who made it. Look, you can actually see where he kind of just shaped it roughly. Here, this is so amazing. Take a look at at this butt plate. Okay, rust. We'll have to clean that up, but it's fairly straightforward. This screw is really interesting. Look at this. It's very different from what we've seen so far. This is fully threaded, but it has like a really crazy taper to it. You can maybe see in there, here, you can see the trigger, the block. You see? Very, very cool. And it seems like the trigger is kept in place by this little metal pin, perhaps. I wonder. Okay, but we're not much closer to figuring out how to remove this barrel, unfortunately. This part moves, as we've already seen. But this part seems really kind of fixed in place, and I don't see another screw. What I do see here is a hole under here. So I wonder if that's hiding like a screw or something, if there's a way to kind of release this part, and then maybe... So what I'm going to do now is get back to you. I need a bit of more comfort to be able to look at it in detail, and I'll come back to you as soon as I figured it out. The end part here of the barrel is moving and coming away. Now it's just an issue of figuring out why it's still stuck here, and it might be... Could it be that it's connected to... No, this would make no sense. Right? Or would it? The barrel here, kind of, there's a little catch. The metal of the barrel kind of comes into a little slot here in the wood. So maybe there's something like keeping everything in place. And it came off. So I was really afraid I caused some damage here, because as you'll see, that little metal lip I was mentioning that was under here is a little hole. There's a hole here, and there's a pin somewhere, which is actually missing here at the moment. So it would have been here, here, and pinning the thing in place and making it more difficult to remove. And as I removed it, I noticed that this other pin is broken. So for a moment I was really afraid I damaged it and broke it, perhaps by pulling. But that does not seem to be the case, because you can see it's actually very rusty. So it has been pulled away, but I didn't use enough strength to pull this apart. The whole thing would have broken. And so my assumption here is that someone at some point needed to work on this pistol. So they might have removed this one pin over here, and then this one was impossible to remove, because you can see it's actually still there. It's here. And you can see it's also still really rusty. And then they probably just kind of, I don't know, pulled it apart, or maybe... I don't know what happened, but at some point something happened. But you can see this is all still covered in rust, so this is not recent damage. But let's take a look at the barrel. There seems to be what could be a maker's mark here. Sorry. But it's really hard to tell if that is indeed a maker's mark, or a proof mark or something. It's all very rusty. You can see especially this area under the wood, like under the front area of the barrel, is very corroded. And active rust is actually active here, so it was an urgent need of work. Okay, and what we have here is a bit weird now, because we've removed all the movable parts. I have no idea how this is fixed in place. There are no screws anywhere. And the trigger is just kept in place by this pin here now. So I hope that the damage isn't in the trigger. So I hope that by maybe repurposing the mechanism, we can make it work, and that there's not an issue like with a catch or something being broken in the trigger, because that would require another level of taking things apart that I'm not sure I have or I'm comfortable with. Okay, looking a little more carefully, there's this hole you can see down here. Maybe you can see it right here. That hole down there seems to connect right here to where the trigger guard is kind of fixed in place. So I have no idea. I can see some metal underneath, but that hole is way too small to even understand if there's a screw there. Or let me see, you can see the shine of, in certain light conditions, you may be able to see there, a little shine of metal down at the bottom. But it's impossible for me to tell if that is a screw or maybe it's just a pin holding everything together. Maybe this isn't meant to come apart. So here are all of the pieces we've removed today. I think we're done. This I'll just kind of clean. I'll try and just clean it with the pieces on the wood. It's pretty amazing how few parts a gun is made up of. The next videos are going to be reconditioning the wood, polishing, not polishing, but kind of cleaning up the metal area. So work on this part, like on the structure of the gun, then cleaning up the barrel and the metal parts, then focusing on hopefully fixing or working on this mechanism to make it work. And yeah, and then putting it back together. So I think a couple of more videos, 2, 3, maybe 4 videos if there's a lot of work, and we'll finally have our results. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching. I'll see you very soon. Bye.